The best player in the biggest sport has to be obviously the ultimate.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
Yeah.
Footballers, before they're famous, go through the same struggles we do on a day-to-day basis. Not everyone is born in ideal circumstances and surroundings, and football players are no different. The same players you see enjoying all the good things in life, at one stage struggled to make ends meet, and were going through the same dilemmas like we do. It's funny how we lose sight of things and not look at the never discussed challenges these star players had to face and the disappointments they had to endure before they made it big. Life is never easy for them either. They have to work to achieve great things, so it's safe to say that if a footballer is making millions and enjoying a luxurious lifestyle, maybe, just maybe, he deserved it, because it's a result of all the blood, sweat and tears he gave for the cause all those years ago. Even if a player gets a contract, you never know when it could all be over. Getting a contract is just a small step and never defines a player's future prospects. In the past, so many players have shone for a while and then faded away for one reason or another. This is why we might never be able to imagine what these athletes go through just to stay in the game. Look at the life of Brazilian great Ronaldo, who did not have the money to go and buy a pair of shoes for training when he was just starting out as a raw talent. Look at where Manchester City youngster Jesus' life was when he was cleaning cars to earn extra money. And how can we ever forget the story of Cristiano Ronaldo and how he was nearly aborted because his mother couldn't afford another child? Imagine how different things would have been. Hello everyone and welcome to yet another amazing video on your favourite YouTube channel Goalside, where we huff and puff every single day just to make sure that you always have something engaging to watch on football. We've been doing this for a very long time, and before we begin, we'd like to thank you guys for the amazing responses we've had in the last few weeks. Our numbers are growing, and it's all down to the excellent support that you guys have been giving us. In today's video, we're going to talk about the formative years of Swedish legend Zlatan Ibrahimović, whose confidence, ability, and way with words has made him one of the coolest players on the planet. While we see a man who has the confidence of a lion, the swagger of a king, and the wit of Sherlock Holmes, not many of us know that life was not easy for Ibracadabra. In this video, we're going to talk about how life was for Zlatan growing up, and how a divide within the family thrust him into the dark side of life, which involved stealing, doing drugs, and other things that might have ruined his career. We're also going to talk about some really intimate accounts of Zlatan's life and how things were a challenge for him when he left Sweden for the Netherlands. This is a unique story of a unique player, and we advise you to sit down, grab something nice to eat, and take a stroll down memory lane with us. Zlatan was born in a tough neighbourhood in Malmo to a Bosnian father and a Croatian mother. The marriage was an unhappy one, with constant fights and abuse a commonplace thing in the Ibrahimović household. The marriage only lasted 2 years, and it was Zlatan who was impacted the most by the split. Growing up, Zlatan developed emaciation syndrome, which happens due to neglect and cruelty from humans. The youngster was unnaturally thin and was struggling to adapt to a single-parent family. While his mother did everything she could, it was only once he reconnected with his father that Zlatan would start showing signs of recovery. Zlatan had always been very close to his father, so if you get a chance to read his autobiography, I Am Zlatan, you'd come to read a lot of accounts in which him and his father enjoyed a great relationship. In one of the stories, Zlatan says that his father only had enough money to buy his son a bed from IKEA but couldn't afford the delivery charges. Knowing that his son would be crushed if he cancelled the purchase, Şefik Ibrahimović carried the bed home with his son. Zlatan fondly remembers this event and says, "We carried it home between us. It's fantastic what we did. I had time with my mother, but I really lived with my father. One time he gave all his salary so I could use it for upkeep." To understand more about Zlatan's father, you have to look at the fact that he ran away from Bosnia and was haunted by the memories of what happened to his loved ones back home. Those memories never went away, and Şefik was unable to get out of the trauma. Due to this, Zlatan started developing a lonely and temperamental lifestyle. He's been very candid about the fact that growing up without a father played a big role in how he reacted to certain situations. The talismanic striker developed a rather stubborn attitude and was very determined not to change his ways while growing up. But ladies and gentlemen, this is where it gets even more heartbreaking. Zlatan isn't a man who would be talking about his emotions, but clearly, under a hard exterior, there is a man who is as sensitive as we are to the travails of life. The former Ajax man says that when he got back home, nobody ever bothered asking what he was going through, and it was the rugged immigrant communities where he found solace. Knowing that his parents never really bothered with what he was up to, Zlatan was free to do what he wanted, and started stealing bikes and sweets from shops. During an interview, the striker says that he was pretty good at stealing bikes, and while Rosengård would not be a neighbourhood that most people would want to visit, Zlatan says that he still feels at home there as compared to the most expensive hotels and suites he can rent out wherever he wants to. But it was eventually going to be football that would save Zlatan from the dark and murky side of life he grew up in, and the Swedish legend himself admits that football saved him from what he could have become if he'd stayed on the streets for too long. Early forays into football. Once he got his first pair of football boots, Ibra started beginning football at the age of 6. While the surroundings weren't too great, the precocious talent had started learning how to use it to his advantage. It was a real hardcore training regimen where Zlatan learned to make quick decisions. But things started changing a little once he came to Malmo, where he was now learning the fine arts of the game. However, as it turned out, there were many people who didn't like to see an immigrant boy training with other kids. At the age of 17, parents of one of his teammates moved heaven and earth to have Zlatan thrown out of the club after he headbutted their son. While the young striker shouldn't have done that, you can see a pattern of how people would try and antagonise him at a young age. And the manner in which the parents carried themselves was churlish to say the least. The player got a letter from his parents and asked people to sign it to kick me out of the club after I headbutted him. It was the year 1999. Malmo FF were struggling in the second division. However, with Zlatan in the senior team, it was only a matter of time before the club would win promotion to top-tier Swedish football. His performances prompted Ajax to bring him to their academy with hopes that they would get the best out of a temperamental talent. But if you think that this was the time where Zlatan finally made it, it would be wrong. At Ajax, Zlatan was very close with former PSG captain Felipe Maxwell and shared the apartment with Egyptian legend Ahmed Mido. Due to that particular aura of arrogance around him, Zlatan never really got close to the local Dutch talent, including Rafael van der Vaart, who at the time was the darling of Dutch football. During an international fixture between Sweden and the Netherlands, Ibra injured van der Vaart and thus initiated a controversy that would have a serious impact on his future at Ajax. The press made a huge deal out of it, and a lot was written about how Zlatan intended to break his club teammates' legs. Clearly, the two youngsters didn't see eye to eye, and one of them had to leave. Surprise, surprise. Ajax decided to sell Ibra to Juventus in the same summer, even though the whole issue could have been sorted out differently. Now this was going to be the real turning point in Ibrahimovic's career. The young striker had finally come to a club where he would be playing alongside some of the greatest players of that time and would slowly become a well-known name in footballing circles. Due to an injury to David Trezeguet, Zlatan was put into the starting 11 straight away and ended up scoring 16 goals as Juve won yet another Serie A title. The same season, Ibra won the Serie A Foreign Player of the Year award. Sadly, the infamous Calciopoli scandal saw Juventus stripped of the 2 league titles and relegated to Serie B. Following the controversial turn of events, Ibra signed for bitter rivals Inter Milan, and this began the legend of a player who would travel all over the world, woo away audiences with his bag of tricks and screamers, curtly respond to critics, initiate fights and help the multiple clubs he's represented to numerous titles. Leagues in Italy, France, Spain and the US have seen firsthand the devastation Zlatan can cause on the pitch, and even though he's now at the tail end of his career, the hunger is still there. The Swede wants to continue winning trophies and writing his own story before riding off into the sunset. Do you know which American player broke Zlatan's rib when he was playing for AC Milan? Answer this and you might win a $100 Amazon gift card. Make sure that you write your answers in the comments section. This is no ordinary player. While circumstances were not really ideal, Zlatan managed to survive the bitter side of life and came out of it a man who would not let circumstances dictate his destiny. For many football players, life is a huge challenge, and it's not easy to see the light at the end of the tunnel when things aren't going your way. But then we have some people out there whose focus is so singular that they will not let anything stop them from achieving their dreams. And we believe that Zlatan is one of the best examples of a successful person who refused to throw in the towel. Let us know what you thought of this video in the comments.
On my way back to the pitch, so Lions is not sure like you.